You're listening to the Family Discipleship Podcast.
Welcome to the Family Discipleship Podcast. We are here to equip and encourage Christian parents to lead their families, and we are now posting new episodes every other Monday all year long. This is Adam Griffin, and I'm here with my incredible co-hosts, Mrs. Cassie Bryant and my wife, Mrs. Chelsea Griffin. Chelsea, how do you feel about sports?
You know, I'm kind of a sports girl.
Sporty.
Yeah.
Sporty spice.
I have a degree in sport management.
Yeah.
And now I'm a labor and delivery nurse, which I always tell people labor and delivery is a competitive sport.
You're like a coach.
There's running, there's yelling, there's blood, there's pain, there's all of it. There's victory a lot of times. You know, there's a lot going on. Big fan of sports.
Big fan of sports.
Yeah.
Favorite sport?
It's between golf and football. I've never played that much football, but...
Well, have you played golf recently?
Yes, I've played today and yesterday.
Cassie, sports feelings.
I like climate-controlled sports. So daughters play basketball and volleyball, except for my youngest, who branched out into soccer. And I'm always very mad about having to sit out at the soccer fields. But she's really good at it. And so I can't really complain. But I like sports. I like watching basketball. It's probably my favorite to watch. But I'm learning volleyball is so much more than just hitting a ball over the net. It's like really complicated sport. And it's really fun to learn it alongside my oldest daughter.
I love it. Yeah, I'm a huge sports fan. Love sports. I'm also not a fan of watching other parents watch their children play sports. I need this talk today. My heart is full of judgment. So as I watch sports, I'm watching parents and I'm saying, not like that. Shouldn't do that. Watching coaches, what is he thinking? Watching refs. And then I'll tell you, Chelsea and I, Cassie, I don't know if we ever talked about this on the podcast. We coached one season of flag football together. And let me tell you what, I'd lay awake at night thinking about plays and thinking about, referees and parent expectation. And it was stressing me out. So we don't coach anymore, but I love watching our kids play sports. I just don't like watching other people's kids play sports.
Yeah.
But what we need there is sanctification, not just quick coaching.
Oh, yeah. You're right.
Yeah. Flag football's not bad. Your stress was bad.
Yeah. I need to surrender that to the Lord.
Yeah.
That's why I'm so glad that we have the experts here with us today. We got two men that wrote a new book about sports. They're two men that are athletes. They care about sports, but they care more about Jesus and they care about families. So I'm so glad, guys, today we've got Brian and Ed with us, ladies and gentlemen.
Brian and Ed.
Brian and Ed.
Thank you.
Ed, how are you doing?
Thank you. I am doing well in the center of Ohio right now. Doing well.
Dayton.
Yep.
My people.
Just outside of Dayton.
I learned if you say O-H, people
You're going to have to say I-O.
People say I-O.
That's right.
That's a cool Ohio thing I know. That's it.
And Brian, are you from Ohio as well?
I am actually from the great state of Michigan, although I'm not a Michigan fan. I grew up a Michigan fan, not anymore.
Oh, what happened?
Oh, no.
I spent 15 years ministering to Wisconsin Badger athletes. And so my loyalty quickly switched to the Badgers.
These are my people.
Adam is so happy right now.
I don't know if I'm so happy, but I grew up in Milwaukee.
Oh, nice.
And you live in Grand Rapids now, right?
I do now, yeah. Yep. I'm just
Grand Rapids has a minor league hockey team called the Griffins, which is my last name. So I grew up with some Griffins gear in my house because my parents thought it was cool. But yeah, I like the Badgers. I root for the Aggies, but I grew up in Wisconsin. Those are my people.
Let's go.
You'll notice that I am pale white, even in the middle of summer. And yes, I do like cheese, sausage, and other things that come with living in Wisconsin. So you probably already smelled that on me. But today, man, I'm so excited for this conversation. Brian, thanks for being with us. Pumped about it.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
For those who aren't familiar with you, will you guys tell us a little bit about each of you, your family, and your ministry?
Yeah, I've been on staff with Athletes in Action for 17 years. Today is actually the 20th anniversary for my wife and I.
Surprise! We wanted to just surprise you with this play.
Thanks, guys.
Congratulations.
Thanks. That's great. Which we woke up in northern Michigan on our 20th anniversary, surrounded by 30 high school kids because we're also high school cross-country coaches. And so we got to celebrate the first half of the day, camping and smelling and all the stuff that comes with a camping trip. I have 3 kids. 15, 13, and 10. They all play sports at least a little bit. Graduated from Wake Forest University for my undergrad, and then I have a master's through Baylor's Truett Seminary as well.
What about you, Ed?
I have been on staff actually with Athletes in Action also for 33 years. Yep. And I grew up on the west side of Cleveland with a high school football coach. So grew up in a football family, but basketball became my sport. I went to Kent State University back in the day to play basketball, although I ended up not playing there. That's a whole nother podcast and discussion. But I did become a Christian while I was there and started working in sport ministry almost right away. I married Amy 25 years ago.
Praise God.
And she's a 2-sport college athlete. So like our lives merged together nicely. And we have 4 kids. Like Brian said, all our kids were playing different levels of sports. Got 3 in college right now and 1 entering 9th grade. So I get one more chance here to try to fix everything that I broke with the first 3.
I know I always tell my oldest, like, hey, you're the first. So you're really kind of bearing the brunt of us navigating and pioneering. And I feel like our youngest is getting the best version of us.
Yes.
Okay, you guys have a new book, and I'm going to read the title so I don't get it wrong. It's called Away Game, A Christian Parent's Guide to Navigating Youth Sports. Tell us what led to you guys writing the book.
Well, as we just said, we met each other in the midst of our ministry, which is to college and professional athletes. But about a decade ago, we were also coaching and we had kids in youth sports. And we just realized we needed help. There really wasn't anything for parents who are trying to be Christian and trying to navigate youth sports. And we were also just realizing the craziness that was coming out of us, and that we were on this train that seemed like it was raging out of control. And yet there just didn't seem to be any help anywhere. So we started talking about it quite a while ago, actually. And then just finally this year decided to finally put it down on paper, because there still isn't hardly anything. It's just not a conversation that's happening very well in church spaces. And it's like, well, we really need help. Like, this is such a huge part of American culture now that so many of us are a part of. And it's almost like it's just been kept as this separate part of our lives, away from the spiritual side of our life and the church side of our life. And so we're just trying to merge them together for people and start the conversation.
Yeah, it's hearing friends and family just continually be exasperated by what's going on in youth sports, and even experiencing it ourselves and thinking, if anybody should care about this, care about thinking, how can we creatively enter into this space and kind of have a redemptive moment where we take this really good gift from God, which is sports, and begin to figure out how can we see the good in it again? What would it look like for us to use sports as a discipleship opportunity for our kids, instead of viewing sports just as a ticket to a college scholarship or a professional avenue? Yeah. So we really do want to help parents think creatively about what would it look like to maybe trust sport for something more than you're actually trusting it for right now. And that's spiritual gains for your kids.
Brian, will you tell us what role sports has played like in your spiritual life and shaping you to be the man you are today? Yeah,
I've played every single sport imaginable. I started 6 or 7, played all the sports. My dad was the coach of everything. So I was the daddy ball kid. I got to be the quarterback and the shortstop and the point guard, all the good positions. My big formative moment came high school year, though. I thought I was really good at sport, but I was probably 4'10", just under 100 pounds entering high school. Football was not an option for me. Tried out for golf, basketball, soccer, cut, and really felt this loss of an identity of I was Brian, the athlete, not just in my family, in my circle of friends. And now all of a sudden it's like, who am I if I don't have sport? And so it was the first time in my life where I really had to do some soul searching and figure out, if I'm not an athlete, what does it look like for my identity? And so I didn't have language at that point in my life for like identity in Christ and putting your identity in what God says is true about you. But that was the first time in my life where I remembered there's got to be something better than what I'm trusting sport for right now.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
We need to hear that. Ed, will you give us just an overview of y'all's philosophy on how parents can use sports to disciple kids?
I will. And Brian is really the originator of this language for us. We've been talking for years about how sport really affords us a front row seat. It's like we're buying a ticket to a front row seat and watching our kid go through a full range of emotions. They come home from school at the end of the day and we ask them how their day went and they say, fine or okay, right? But you really don't know what happened during the day. You're trying to get sentences out of them. You don't know how they responded to teachers or kids in the lunchroom or who bullied them or who they were bullying. But when it comes to sports, you actually have access to watching them on the field, on the courts, when the climate's controlled, when it's not, when they're being mistreated by somebody, what they do at practice. It's a living
laboratory.
It really is a living laboratory. Now, again, so this is what we end up talking about. So often, all we're really paying attention to is their performance in their sport, or we're concerned about their playing time, or we're concerned about their statistics or the way that they performed in their sport. And yet there's all these other opportunities to move into their lives as a discipler, as somebody that's actually paying attention to how virtue is being exposed or a lack of virtue is being exposed. And how do we steward that then as parents? Because that's really our first job as parents, which again, it's so easy to forget about that in the context of youth sports. Our first job and the identity that should stay with us everywhere we go is we are their first discipler. We are the ones that are giving them categories to think in so that they will follow Jesus for a lifetime. Can't force them to do it, can't guarantee it, but we're at least the first gatekeeper to say, this is what it looks like. Here's how we should think. Here's language to use when you're in this situation. And so sports, like Brian said, it's a laboratory, it's a greenhouse. It's full of opportunities if we'll choose to see them and move into them. And we don't miss them because we're only paying attention to the sport in front of us.
That's good. Yeah, I think a big struggle a lot of us have is that when we watch our kids play sports, we think a lot about winning and losing. I know there have been several times for me where I can feel my own vital signs changing because I want a certain outcome, and so I know it's affecting our kids. Talk to our listeners about, is it okay for us to want to win, to try to win? What role does winning play? What importance should it have? And for Christians, should sports be just about character building, having fun, rather than trying to defeat an opponent? I mean, we worship the God of victory, okay?
Yes. We're in Ohio and Texas. This is Ohio and Texas and some Michigan we're talking about. Go ahead, Brian.
Yes, it is okay to want to win, and you should want to win, and you should pursue the win in sport. I think you can make a very biblical argument that it is glorifying to God when you use all of your athletic abilities at your disposal to try to win a game. The issue becomes when you make winning an idol or a god, when winning becomes the ultimate end of everything. And we see that in sports right now, right? Like we see that when we're pursuing winning at all costs, we begin to drop virtue to the side. So often it means a coach then who has his entire self invested in the outcome of a game and a referee makes a bad call. If winning is all that matters, then they're going after that ref because their entire identity is at stake. And so there's this separation that needs to happen where it's like it is just a game, and within the confines of the game, yes, pursue winning, go after it, teach our kids how to win graciously, but also realize it's just a game. The scholarship for a 6-year-old is not on the line. There's no coach, there's no scouts watching 7-year-old soccer. There might be these days, but what if we all just took a collective deep breath and just enjoyed watching our kids play? And yeah, go win, go have fun. But I still love you even if you don't. I still enjoyed watching you play even if you didn't win.
Yeah.
Can we say this too, that like I've been blaming stuff on ESPN for years, and I will lay blame at the feet of ESPN for winning becoming all that matters, because literally that's all they ever talk about is you have to win championships in order to be relevant. You have to win championships in order to count. And that has trickled down to youth sports. And again, I just want to acknowledge where that comes from and say, I don't think that that's true. I don't believe that that's actually true. And Brian, we've never said this before. Winning does matter, but I want to say this. It doesn't matter when they're 6 years old.
Thank you.
I don't know when it's supposed to start mattering, but before they actually know how to play the game, it really doesn't matter. And I see this all the time at the YMCA, or again, we're on fields and in courts all the time watching, like you said, Adam, we're watching a lot now what's happening. And it's like, no, dude, like these kids don't even know how to play the game yet. And you're worried about whether or not one more basket goes through than the other team at the end of this.
Yeah.
It's like, no.
Yeah.
I think we need to confront that a little. We need to confront that a little bit.
Brian, you put it in the context of idolatry, where it's like, if winning is everything, then I'm willing to cheat, right?
Yeah.
Because I go, then I'm willing to break the rule if I know the rule will be in my favor. I'm willing to yell at the ref when he makes a bad call against me, but I'm willing to cheer the ref when he makes a bad call against the other team. So it's not actually that he makes bad calls. It's that it's whether it's not, it's in my favor. And so we often will talk to kids who are like, or families will say, my kid falls apart because he said something is unfair. No. Your kid fell apart because he didn't win. If it was unfair and he won, he wouldn't care that it was unfair. So it's not unfairness. It's not justice in his heart that bothers him. It's victory. It's something about the way he feels in his identity if he gets what he wants or she gets what she wants. It's getting cut from the team that bothers them. Then we look for unfairness. And you know this, it may be especially in this generation. Ed, you've been doing this for 33 years. You've probably seen a difference in this where the parents now will rise up on behalf of even college athletes, and they will call coaches and they will call athletic directors, and they will call, they will follow referees to their car. They will make it about something that's not just about winning. It's become about them and whether or not they're okay. And I've seen this, Brian, if I'm going to be honest, I see this in my own heart. I brought this up at the beginning. I see judgment in my heart. I see, Chelsea, I love the way you described it, that my vital signs change as I'm watching. I know it. Mm-hmm. My blood pressure, my heart rate, my temper and my temperature are all changing as I'm watching. I know that I take over the judgment seat from Christ, and I'm like, actually, let me have the judgment seat for a second, because I think this ref is like this, and I think this parent's like this, and this kid, you can't do that. That's actually against the rule, and I see it in me. So, Brian, talk to me a little bit as a minister who I know you've seen this from the sideline. I know you've seen this as a coach, and I know you've seen this as an athlete. Speak to my heart. Adam Griffin, What should I be praying for the Lord to do in my heart through youth sports? Like, what is the opportunity I have?
Yeah, I'm looking in the mirror because I am the same way. I wrote a book on this. So you would think if anyone should know better, it would be somebody like me. But because we use the language, sport is life with the volume turned up, it brings us to places that we normally don't want our hearts to go. Even as a Detroit Lions fan, I'll be sitting on the couch in my emotional, like I'm usually a 3 to 7 emotional. It's hard to get me past a 7 excited. It's hard to get me lower than a 3. But when I'm watching the Lions, I'm like a 10 or a 1. And so sports just does something to me that very few things in life actually can do. And so I disciple myself like this. Before a Lions game, before my kids' games, I'm asking God, would you help me to be cognizant about what's going on in my heart, in my mind? Like I want to have an awareness of the thought before it becomes audible words to a ref, if that makes sense. Because my knee-jerk reaction is oftentimes I'm witty, and so I speak things out loud, and then I'm like, I wish I could take that back. And so I want Christ to do a work in me when I'm at the games on the sidelines to say, let's maybe do an audit of what's going on in your head and in your heart before it becomes audible words for everybody else to hear. And then on the back end after the game, I'm doing an audit of what went on in my heart and soul. Did I care too much about the win? Should I have maybe engaged the person next to me who I just ignored the whole time because I was so locked in to watching my kid play that it was like I was an audience of one for my kid and not paying attention to I have 70 other image bearers out here that I could have engaged with. And so just doing front end work and back end work of heart stuff.
That's good. I think it's helped for me empathetically. And Chelsea and I both spent some time refereeing different sports throughout our lives, and it is the worst job in my opinion. Like, I'll tell you what.
It's awful.
When nobody likes you and everybody hates you, you lost your personhood the second you put on the stripes, and everybody is ready to tear you down and tell you what you do not know. Like everybody. And I have so much grace in my heart for referees. I mean, honestly, I'm so grateful for them, but I've seen it in my heart too. I've seen judgment in my heart. But tell me, Ed, help me think about this now, because Brian, that's helpful. One of the things I see, and I don't think this is, if Chelsea can call me out if this is not true of me, but I see a lot of parents who struggle with something that I don't think I struggle with, which is that their identity as a parent is built around the performance of their kid. Not just what Brian was talking about earlier, where he's talking about his own performance, but a dad doesn't know how to feel. He's upset if the kid loses. He's upset if the kid misses the shot because something about him is on the line, because it says something about him or it says something about her. What do you say to the family? What do you say right now to the parents who get to maybe hear from you about, man, this is how I want you to feel and think in that moment. This is how I want to minister to you and talk to you about, not just about how performance issues are happening for your kid and how you can disciple them, but let me let you off the hook here about your own identity and it's tied to your kid's performance.
Yeah, good, Adam. Brian and I were literally talking about this before we came on here with you, that maybe the next book actually somebody needs to write is focused specifically on us as parents to explore and expose what is going on in our hearts in relationship to our kids, that sports is bringing out idolatry. It's bringing out unresolved anger. It's bringing out regret from my past. It's bringing out the way I was treated by my parents in a sport context, or coaches that I had, or some injustice that's happened that continues to hang on me that I've not dealt with, and that now it's coming out when I show up at the field and I'm watching my son or daughter out on the field. It's all coming back out, but I don't even realize it. I mean, what I really need is I need some, can I get away with saying counseling? Like, I don't know.
Coaching?
I need some coaching. I need some spirit coaching, really, to explore the emotional side of my life and these parts of my heart that have maybe gone unchecked, that having kids, I mean, we're talking about it in the context of sports, but having kids brings out everything, doesn't it? From your insides. Okay. Yeah. All the horrors that are hiding in the corners of your soul come out when you have kids. Sports, because it's life with the volume turned up, because it's so emotional, I mean, it just takes it to a whole nother level, that it's exposing those unresolved parts of me that actually needs to be sanctified. They need to be brought out into the open and confessed or healed. They need to be ministered to. And again, we don't even want to acknowledge. Brian said we can't write that book because most people don't actually want to do that kind of work, which I thought was really interesting for him to say that.
Yeah.
But it's true. I don't want to do that because I have to face ugliness inside of myself, but that's how I get whole. That's how I become sanctified. And the sooner that I do that work, the more the people around me benefit, most notably my wife and my kids.
We haven't said this out loud on a podcast, but you just mentioned just the...
Hear it here, folks.
Confessing, like if we are making an idol out of not just sport, but our kid, for Christian listeners like that, it's sin, right? It's not just something that we need to improve on, and we need a self-help manual to get better at that. We don't need a book called Away Game to get better at that. We need to confess that and repent and turn the other way of that.
Amen.
Yeah. Well, and some of that the idolatry is still ourselves, because it's about how our kids making us feel, or about how we're perceived by our peers.
Yes.
Because of our kids' performance. So it's really kind of still making it about us.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of my favorite things, Cassie, about what you're talking about is I can't tell you how many times I've seen parents justify how much they spend on youth sports because one day it might lead to a scholarship. And it's an idol when that's the case. Because if you're willing to spend more than it'll cost for your kid to go to college in the name of getting some money off of college one day, something's wrong. Something is broken.
Sense.
Yeah.
Why do I feel so embarrassed when my kid messes up? I feel this intense embarrassment, like a shame almost with the other parents.
Yeah.
Why do I feel, again, Brian and I talk about this, when they do well and now you feel like you rule the stands, and it's like,
I'm
no,
the best dad here.
Yeah, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
So Adam, it really is. We laugh at it, but it's like, first we need to acknowledge that it's there and even see it as a problem. And then let's bring it out into the light and say, okay, where is this coming from? Why is this wrong? Why am I projecting this onto my child? And how do I get free from it?
Mm-hmm.
Amen. Yep, that's
well,
good
I
word.
think it's partly focusing on what's really at stake, which is not their performance or their reputation or my reputation, but it's their souls and their character and their integrity. And that's where I think youth sports can shine, because they learn so much by playing in the game, whatever it is, whether it's individual sport or if it's team sport. And there are such opportunities for leveraging sports for discipleship in our homes and in our teams. And so I would love to hear, Brian, let's start with you. I would just love to hear if you have any like best practices or kind of how you lead your pre and post game, like the strategy for kind of discipleship and just really pointing your athletes to their purpose and their eternal value and their worth beyond what's going to happen for that next 50 minutes.
That's a lot.
That is a lot. I'll start with a very, very practical thing to do. And then Ed, you can take it from there if you want. And this is not just with teams that I have coached. This is with my own kids. I've encouraged them to do this. The skill of when the game is over, you go find the referee and you shake their hand and you look them in the eye and you say, "Thanks for reffing our team today." A simple way. And this is, so here's why I think this is significant. Jesus was consistently looking out for people on the margins, and like referees are probably not marginalized people group, but within the context of sport, they're the people that get forgotten. Yeah. And so it becomes like a really, really small way for our kids to learn to enter into a space and look for people like Jesus probably looked for people. And then not just to see them, but to go acknowledge them and show them dignity and worth. And so I tell the story in the beginning of the book where I just like blew up the stands, and something that I said reverberated to the entire stadium, and it just made the entire game a mess. And after the game, this is not in the book, and Ed, you probably don't know this, after the game, 3 kids went up to the referees, who the refs just totally blew the game, but whatever. My son and 2 other kids went up to these referees and shook their hand. And I had this like moment of, wow, like I was so proud of them, but also this ugliness of like, they didn't deserve that, buddy. They don't deserve for you to go up and do that. But these kids are learning to, regardless of how the referees perform, they're learning to go and acknowledge them and show them dignity. And so just a really small, practical way, teach your kids to humanize the refs by shaking their hand. And so I've made it a practice myself now before any game, even games that I'm not reffing, if I'm just a parent in the stands, I'm going to walk on to depending on the level, right? I'm not doing this at a college level, but if it's like a YMCA league, I'm walking onto the field or the court. I'm shaking the referee's hand. I'm learning their name. 1, because I want to show them dignity and respect. But 2, if I can humanize them in my own heart, it makes me less likely to say really dumb stuff during the game. If I know Tom is just a 16-year-old kid who's getting paid $13 an hour, and this is his 5th game today, and he really doesn't care that much as I do about the game.
It's good, Brian. We talk about, in the majority of the chapters of this book, we're taking specific virtues that we're saying, let's focus on this virtue, and what would it look like for it to show up as a countercultural narrative, just to use kind of biggish language, in the life of our child, or at least set them in a direction, because they might not do it at 6 the first time that you try to tell them to do this. They won't. They probably won't. But we're just going to keep setting them in this direction. So, for example, we talk about how sport culture teaches us to be the center of the universe. Always watch out for yourself. Always get me and mine. Watch out for me and my family's best interest, from the bottom of the sports ladder all the way up to the professional leagues. Jesus says to do just the opposite, actually. He says to agape. The message of the New Testament is to agape one another, which is to say we're going to do what's best for other people in spite of what it costs us. Yeah. Just think about that. So what does it look like to start teaching my 6-year-old, even like Brian said, to start taking their eyes off themselves, which is so difficult to do. We're saying it's hard for us to do that as parents, let alone for our 6-year-old. But what does it look like for us to take our eyes off of ourselves and you start seeing your teammates around you? What might that look like? Learn your teammates' names. What are your teammates' names? So-and-so looked like they were struggling today. What was going on with them? I don't know. Well, maybe next time you be the one that goes and asks them, hey, what's going on? You seem like you're down. And I've said this to my to the 4th child, and he's super articulate. He's like, Dad, people think I'm weird if I do that. And which is a great moment.
Yeah.
Trey, you will be weird.
That's right.
In the best way.
In the best possible way.
Yeah.
You're a Jesus follower. And guess what? Joe actually needs somebody to see that he's sad right now. And you could play that role in his life. Okay. So again, it's starting that kind of conversation. Because here's the reality. And I can say this now that I'm on the other side of 3 of my kids being done with sports. I don't remember hardly anything that I was worried about for my now oldest son, my 24-year-old son, when he was 12 years old playing baseball. I don't hardly have a memory of specific things that happen in his games. I remember being crazily worked up, whether it was basketball, baseball, whatever, just so stressed out about everything that we're talking about. And now I almost don't remember any of it. Wouldn't it have made way more sense, though, to be teaching him how to love people when he was 12 so that when he's 24, to Brian's point, the things that I'm teaching him that actually have character attached to them will stay with him when he's 24. His stats from his 12-year-old year of baseball, they won't stay with him. Whether he learned to see people when they're downcast really matters when they're 24.
Yeah.
That's good.
That's worth the college tuition, right? That's
Right.
worth
That's
the
right, 'cause
investment.
that's
we put into
priceless.
it.
Yeah.
Come on.
Amen.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's if sports are the vehicle to help them follow God, and they're not the destination for our kids' lives. If we say this is a method, a tool that the Lord's given us, it's really sweet to be able to. I love, we don't have time for it today, but when Chelsea gives a talk about what she loves about teaching kids golf, where you're going to be, it's you versus a ball compared to somebody else versus a ball, and you're reffing your own match against this other kid. You have to call them out for cheating yourself. No one else is there to do all these things that are elements that I want, those virtues I want in my kids. And some of the language that people have helped share with us that I've really been blessed with in our kind of post-game talk. So we don't talk as much about how the quality of our kids' play. We don't walk up and go, hey, you played really well tonight. Because then when they don't play well, do they walk up and they go like, hey, what's my dad going to say? Like we talk first about how much we enjoyed watching them play, about how we felt about like our pride in seeing a moment that they did. But it's less about my feelings are on the line based on your performance and the quality of your play. Right. Our post-game talks are always about like how proud we feel, how much we loved. Here's what we enjoyed. Hey, did you get a chance to say thank you to your coach? You say, bless you to the referees. And if we had to remind them that like, if you felt like the other team is your enemy, let's just remember that we love our enemies. So this is not walking away saying we hate those kids that beat us, or isn't that great that we whooped those kids?
Good. And let's go get ice cream. What kind of ice cream do you want? Let's go get ice cream, right?
Let's go. Yeah. So one of the things you guys talk about in the books is this post-game moment you have with the kids. Brian, help us think about that. Like the opportunity you have after sports. Like we're talking about the virtue building of playing sports. But as a parent, you are going to walk away from that field. What's the opportunity there, Brian, to point your kids' attention to the Lord, or to use the experience you just had? Now many of these parents who aren't coaching, they're just now reunited with that kid. What's important in that moment to remember in your opportunity to disciple them?
Yeah, let me talk about the place to do it and the place not to do it. And then Ed, you can talk about maybe what to say when you're in the right place. The car ride home has continually been identified by researchers as the place where parents are ruining their kids' sporting experience. And so it has been the one thing that kids have identified as the reason why they are miserable in sport, and the reason that they're quitting sport is because they're terrified of the car ride home. And it is usually, let me say this too, it's usually well-intentioned parents who have noticed, maybe if you just turn your elbow in on your free throw, you'll get a little bit more arc on it. Or, hey, when the ball keeps going through your legs at shortstop, it's because you keep coming up. I think you're afraid of it. And if you just stay down, you'll get it. And kids are getting into the car after they've performed in front of lots of people, including their parents. And oftentimes, again, well-intentioned parents, what they're hearing is coaching and critique, maybe some criticism. And what they need in those moments is just connection. Adam, what they need is exactly what you have shared. What they need before anything else, before any virtue building, or how do we take advantage of this moment? They need to feel safe and that mom and dad love them just because we're mom and dad and we love our kids. And so they're walking into the car not as an athlete, but as a son or a daughter. And so we have joked, kind of tongue in cheek, that the car ride home could be what prevents your kid from coming home for dinner in 30 years, for Thanksgiving dinner. Like the way we interact with our kids. And so if it's not the car ride home, where is it? It could be the the dinner table. It could be the bedside. What I am thinking through is I want my kid to be in a spot where they are showered and fed, and psychologists use the term in their window of tolerance. And so I want them to be their normal self and not just like totally amped up or deflated from a game when I'm trying to teach them something. I want them to be regulated. And usually at least for my kids, it means they need to be clean, they need to smell good, and they need to have some food in their system. And once they're regulated, then we begin the conversation of, hey, I saw how you responded when the ref made that bad call today. Could you maybe let me in a little bit on what was going on? Why did that make you so upset? And so it's in those, Ed, maybe you can get to those points, but it is get them regulated, get them showered and fed, and then have the conversation. Now, I would disclaim this as well. If your kid was doing something like totally ridiculous and chucking their helmet across the field at an opponent, that's not a situation where it's like, hey, let's get you fed and let's go get ice cream. That probably needs to be addressed right away, right? But for the little moments that everybody else in the stands would miss, but because you are mom and dad and you saw something maybe change in their demeanor, those are the moments that we get them regulated and then get the microscope out and let's go to work.
Well, and so often we just end up wanting to talk about sport performance. And so they go, let's just say this. The reality is, again, this is such a general statement. This is based on experience and being around literally thousands of athletes across decades now. Most of our kids are not interested necessarily in getting better. They want to play.
Yeah.
They want to play. Some kids really, really are focused on getting better and they'll stand out on their own. They will initiate that they want to get better. If they're going to be a college athlete, it's not going to be because of your parenting. It's going to be because you as a parent might actually prevent that from happening. Okay.
By
because of the things.
them.
Yes. But they're going to be a college athlete because God gave them a physical ability to perform this skill in ways that most people can't. And they have a mental and an internal drive that causes them to put in the extra work on the things that are difficult that most people won't do. That's what that 0.5% that winds up in college, that's what's true about them. That's not true about most of the kids. So, and again, I feel like I want to treat my kid like he's one of those 0.5%. And I don't think that's fair to do to them. So maybe they really don't want to talk about it. So Brian started doing this years ago. I think it's brilliant. And that is to ask your kid after the game, is there anything that you want to talk about the game? Like ask the question. And maybe sometimes, I was just talking to a guy earlier, he's a baseball coach, and he did that with his son, and his son did want to talk about specific things in the game. Okay, then you can enter into that with him and keep asking him questions about it. Don't start piling on him with the 2 hours worth of correction that you have. That's not going to end well. But if he wants to talk about it, see what he or she wants to talk about. Most of the time, though, when they say no, which is most of the time what you'll hear, I got to be okay with that. I really think I need to make peace with that. I don't have to fix their sports performance if they're not wanting it to be fixed. And again, I know that's super difficult for Texans and Ohioans to hear when it comes to sports. Football, baseball, basketball.
That's king.
Virtue is another thing altogether. I need to have relational capital with my kids so that they actually want to hear things about virtue from me again. So that's another precursor. Am I living in the kind of way that my kid actually wants to hear me talk about spiritual things? Am I living with them in a way that I've earned the right to have interactions with them? And again, that sounds like kind of crazy talk for a parent to have to think that way. But if that's all I ever do is scream at them and correct them about everything in their lives, they're probably not going to want to receive virtue talk from me. So again, that's another gut check moment that maybe I need to clean up the way I'm interacting with my kid. And then I look for these times maybe before bed. That's what we always talk about. I've had my best conversations with my kids about any of this kind of stuff before bed. They're regulated. They do want to talk about it. The door is open. They don't want to
go to sleep.
Yeah, they got selfish reasons for wanting to stay up. Those are great times to, or special times. Again, Brian talks about this all the time of setting up daddy date nights, setting up lunches, initiating to get one-on-one time with our kids. That takes work and energy. But if I'm going to be their discipler, that's the kind of effort I have to put into it in order to get a hearing.
Yeah.
That's good. Okay, here's what I really want to talk about. We see this all the time in Texas where, this is the Bible Belt. A lot of people go to church unless the coach said there's something mandatory, right? And so we see a lot of families who choose sports over their local church, whether it's practice or a game or a tournament. How can churches address that well? And what would you say to the parent who's deciding whether or not to go to Sunday morning baseball tournament or to say, well, church is important to us? Talk to our parents about that.
In one of my classes at Baylor, the professor asked, how many of you in the last year have heard a sermon from your pastor that was just about sport? And nobody raised their hand. And then she asked, how many of you in your entire lifetime have ever heard a pastor give a sermon just on sports? And nobody in the class raised their hand. And I've just been doing my own unofficial asking of friends and family, and I haven't found anybody yet who has sat under the leadership of a pastor who has given like a theology of sport or a theology of play. Now, I know there are some out there because I've researched it, I've listened to them, but I've been going to church for over 30 years and I haven't heard a pastor address it, which is crazy because it's such a big idol in our culture. Sports affect, even if you are not an athlete or a sport parent, it still affects your lives. Like our American lives revolve around sports in so many ways. And so how are we not at least once a year talking about what are sports? How can we think well of them? Where do we need to maybe be cautious of? And so even in this conversation, which Ed, I'm about to pass the baton to you, but even in this conversation, it's like part of me wants to give the parents a little bit of slack if the shepherds in their lives aren't even initiating the conversation of how to think about sport, aside from just illustrations and metaphors, which sports give amazing illustrations and metaphors. But if we haven't taught our people how God made sports, what the purpose of them are, how they can become an idol in our lives, how we can use them for redemptive purposes, it makes sense why when AAU teams and travel teams who are willing to talk about the good of sport are coming to parents and saying, if you just enter in, this is what we can promise you on the back end. Most of them are empty promises, but it makes sense why we're just following culture if the church isn't leading the conversation. So what I would like to see is the church flip the script and begin not just saying, why aren't you showing up for Sunday, but begin the conversation of, hey, let's talk about sports. Let's talk about maybe why God made them and begin to build a theology in our people about the good, but also the pitfalls of sports. So they even have categories to think through.
Yeah.
Brian, we talked to those guys a couple weeks ago that are leading youth ministers down southeast somewhere. I think they're in Georgia. And they said, let's stop viewing sports as an enemy. Again, now we're still speaking to kind of leaders, youth leaders, pastors. Let's stop viewing sports as an enemy and start putting more energy into equipping our people to continue feeding themselves while they're away, to continue thinking about how to be sport missionaries. Like, let's put some color on that idea. Like, what would it mean for you to have a list, let's say, of sermons that you're going to listen to while you're traveling, to, a list of podcasts that as a family you're going to listen to and discuss. Here's 3 questions to take with you to initiate with your kids. Maybe you go, I just talked to another guy the other day. They always go visit a church when they're traveling somewhere. They go on a Saturday night or they'll get up early and they'll go to a service that's not even their own church because they're wanting to communicate to their kids. This matters to us. We don't have to be in our building 52 weeks a year, but we're going to be about the business of developing ourselves in a weekly rhythm, even when we're going away to do sports. So churches, to Brian's point, need to play a more intentional role in helping people to do that. Flip it around to the parents. Again, we could talk about this for the whole podcast. Brian and I believe we should go to church. After COVID, it's just become that much easier for people just to view getting together with a congregation of people as optional. Mm-hmm. It can't be optional. Like, that's not healthy for us or our families to have a view that it's optional.
Yeah.
And using any excuse in the world to miss. I would rather be at a baseball game than sitting in many of the church services that I sit through. Can we just acknowledge that? But that's not what's best for me and my family if that becomes the routine that starts to dominate our year.
Yeah.
So again, we want to throw that out there. We've also said, look, if you still have a conviction that you should be in church on Sunday and not miss for games, you can have that conviction and stand on that. Like, you don't have to go along with sport culture. Most coaches will be okay with you saying, we're not going to be there for that 8 a.m. game or 9 a.m. game. We'll be there this afternoon. You know, you don't tell them that right before the game, but even before the season, say, hey, we're probably not going to want to play Sunday mornings. Can we still be on the team? And most of the time they would say yes. So you can do that if you want. Now, for everybody else in between, how do we continue to honor God across our year as a family in the way we structure our lives? Is there intentional spiritual development that's going on in our household? Or are we, because we weren't at church on Sunday, we go for months and there's just nothing? That's a problem. It's not just that you didn't go to church. It's that you're not thinking about how to take ownership of the discipleship of the family.
That's right.
Okay. So let's stop there. Again, we could talk about that for another hour.
I'm grateful for that. I think it's a great place to emphasize as we conclude this conversation is that, well, one of the ways I used to communicate to families, I was a youth pastor for a long time.
Okay.
And I would say all of us will understand if there's a time that you miss a church activity, a church retreat, because your kid has multiple commitments. We get that. But if in any way you're teaching your kid that there are other commitments that are more important than their walk with Jesus, then we are not on the same page.
Come on.
That for whatever reason, if it's a chess club or dance club, if he's trying out for something, or if you think he's really on the track to be a pro athlete, which there are some families that are like, well, you don't understand how good he is. No, I don't care how good he is. If you're communicating to him that his quality or her quality at her sport or activity or any extracurricular, be it musicals or be it band or whatever, is more important to them than us walking towards Jesus together, then we are not on the same page as a church. And so I would call to say, whatever you're doing, we're going to say it's not just about what's your attendance record. It's about, like you just said, Ed, are we discipling these kids or not?
Good.
And while sports is a great avenue to do so, and really any extracurricular and a lot of our academic things that we get to witness our kids do, like spelling bees or geography or whatever, it's a competition, is a great opportunity to disciple a kid. Those things have to be opportunities to disciple, not what we are discipling them toward, right? We're not just trying to disciple them to be better basketball players and to meet daddy's expectations. We're not just trying to meet them to be the best dancer in her dance troupe to meet mommy's expectations. I have overheard moms with crying daughters who are begging to quit dance, and the mom is saying, no, you promised me that you would dance for 2 more years, because her identity is on the line, and I'm just crushed for these kids. And I'm going, you are discipling your kid to think that your ego or your stats. Chelsea and I have talked about parents who lose their social life because of a kid's injury. And so the parent is devastated. I'm going to get to your local church, not so you have a social life, but that you see something that's actually worth building your life on, a foundation worth building your home on. And so, Ed, Brian, thank you for this conversation. I've been blessed by this. I'm positive this is going to bless a lot of families. I'm grateful for the time you guys spent in writing the book. Writing a book together is hard. People don't know. It's not just dividing up the work. It's trying to do this thing together. So I'm grateful for you guys and the work you guys do with athletes all over the country, all over the world. Thank you guys so much for being with us today.
Appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Well, thanks for listening, friends. If you think it's as important as we do to disciple our families, please help us out by giving us a great review wherever you listen to podcasts. Visit one of our sponsors and share this episode with one of your friends. If you want to keep up with us or join the conversation, you can find us at familydiscipleship.com or follow the Family Discipleship Podcast on Instagram and Facebook. Episodes of the Family Discipleship Podcast are now coming out every other Monday all year long, so we'll talk to you again in 2 weeks.